To open it up to the floor, we have a roaming microphone. So I'm going to ask that you speak into the microphone with your question, and let's go. Ooh, all right, that was quick.
I thought there'd be no questions.
In the back.
Who are these people?
Thank you very much. I'm really enjoying the conversation. I've been on 2 boards and have been at polar extremes in one particular area, which is protecting the legacy or the mission of the institution. So in the first, there were life members assigned in order to protect the value system of this particular private school that had formed about 50 years ago. And they were, in a sense, crimping the ability for that private school to evolve. And yet there was no way to remove them. In the second board, I've come into it recently and found that there is no mission, that it's rewritten every 2 years as soon as there's a new board in place and a new strategic initiative is undertaken where the mission is rewritten. So I think there's issues with both extremes, and I just wanted to open that up to see what your thoughts were about it.
Are you on first?
No, I'm on second.
Okay, I'll go on that one. There's lots of different views on this. I think at the end of the day, you know, a couple institutions I've been involved with. When I came in, I said, so what's the vision? What are we here to do? And we go out and ask people, government, private sector donors, anybody, how to explain it. What do we say? And often there's nothing. Often you'll find it's like, well, it's kind of inherent. We're called the Toronto Symphony, so we're a symphony and we present shows. So that's our vision. My view, the way I was trained, was your vision statement, which is short, is a thing that really should more or less frame the philosophy or the zeitgeist of an institution for 50 years. Your mission is a 5 to 10 year document, which you continually renew, but every 5 to 10 years, not every 2 years, because it's hard to get much done in 2 years. And your values should really capture the spirit of the activity of the institution. So that's the bias that I bring, and certainly looking at organizations like the Royal Conservatory of Music, the National Ballet School, Banff Centre, Toronto Symphony, we've had more or less the same vision, all 4 of those institutions, from our founding until now. It hasn't changed really that much. The mission statement, which from my management training, was really around how you interweave that vision, the space between your vision and your business plan is your mission statement, where you say, okay, here are the 5 to 10 year goals that we've established that interconnect those 2 things. Does need refreshing on an ongoing basis. And I think particularly in a time where the world is changing around us so rapidly, updating that is important. Having no vision, probably not a good idea. And updating it so often that it's schizophrenic almost in terms of, well, this year we're about this and the next year we're about that. Likely not good for potential funders. Actually, any stakeholder participating in an institution will be very confused by a 2-year radical shift in your focus.
I'd add that it's essential that you go out and talk to the people you're serving. What do they want? What is their view? What are their thoughts about the organization? So when I headed up the creative capital gains report for the city, we literally talked to 500 people, and some of those were one-on-one and some were 40 people in a room, but somebody told us we spoke to 500 people. So we heard the collective views of the City of Toronto, and the report was written, and out of that there were 34 recommendations, and of the 34, I haven't got the exact numbers, but about a dozen of them been hit and substantially exceeded, another dozen done, a bunch more well in process, and there are 4 or 5 left to be done, but will be done. So it was a process that produced a result that 5 years later is working well for this city. Artscape is world-class in terms of recognition of what it does, because Tim Jones insists that we speak to all stakeholders and we get input from all stakeholders. So we, believe it or not, have something like 124 people on our boards collectively. So we have boards for everything, and these people have the opportunity to make an input. Then we do roundtable discussions, and people turn out. They want to express their views. So if these organizations are stumbling, it may be they're not asking and listening to their own constituents.